Hi, family. Welcome back to another episode of What's Your Journey? I'm Jordan Thorpe, and today we have a special guest with us. Her name is Rondell Martin. But before we get into our interview, of course, we have to do our Kingdom Business highlight of the week, and that is FaithBox. And if you're unfamiliar with FaithBox, it is a monthly subscription that you can get every month full of goodies to help you grow your faith. So if you're struggling or just need some extra support, check out FaithBox, and you can find them in Jordan's Journey app in the directory section, along with other Kingdom businesses as well. So welcome, Rondell. How are you today?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. And just to give you guys a little bit of background of how Rondell and I connected. So I was part of a YouTube collaboration called 7 on 7. And I met her along with other faith-based women who were just awesome. So I'm glad that we got to reconnect, and she is able to share her story with us today. So Rondell, introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Rondell Martin, as you said, but most people probably will know me by Daily Dell on Instagram and YouTube. So that is my faith-based lifestyle, motherhood content page. I candidly share my life, my faith, inspiration, for particularly for the modern Christian woman, millennial Christian woman. But I mean, I've got some older, younger, on my page. And I absolutely love just being transparent and vulnerable. If anybody would tell you to describe my brand in one word, they would say like transparent or vulnerable, because I really am about sharing those moments and just showing what I don't want to say true, but just what authentic, raw Christianity looks like in the day-to-day.
Right.
So I'm a YouTuber, but I also am an influencer. And then when I'm not doing those two things, I am a business coach and consultant. So I help women turn their knowledge and unique influence into purpose-based online businesses. So really learning how to take their gifts, their passions, their purpose, their skill sets, and merge, like find where they merge, and creating a business from that, particularly online. I haven't helped people with brick and mortar, but anything from creating their own online coaching or mentorship program, growing their own brand. So if they want to grow a personal brand and then monetize later, helping them with that. Just everything kind of online in the online space. So I really enjoy doing that. And when I'm not doing any of that stuff, I'm a single mom. I have a 4-year-old son, and I love to travel. I love to hang with my family. I love to eat out. I love to exercise. I just love to just live life to the fullest.
I love that. Just live life to the fullest. So thank you so much for sharing that. And you talked about, Christianity. That's kind of like the foundation of your business, who you are. So how did you come to terms with your relationship with God and Christianity? Like, did you grow up in a church? And was that something that was always instilled in you? How did you get to your level of faith that you have now?
So I grew up in a Christian home, but my parents weren't very traditional or churchy. And I say that with air quotes because, when people hear Christianity, they think of a certain type. They think, okay, this is what you're doing. You're all going to talk like this, dress like this, sound like this, live like this. Like, my parents weren't like that at all. They were very much about personal relationship, and they were very much into, even though I know this can be a dirty word depending on the groups you're with, but the spirituality of it all. So not just the
But that's
orthodox
true.
religion,
That's
right?
true. I think your relationship with God is different than religion.
Right,
That's
exactly.
why I consider Christianity, if I had to categorize it, yes. If I had to put a label on it, it's Christianity. But I like to call my everything I'm doing faith-based,
Yes,
because
same here.
I'd like to reach more people that way, because it doesn't put them in a box. And it's just like
Exactly.
everyone needs faith.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how I was raised.
Yeah.
So we did family devotion, we read the Bible, but we didn't really like join a church and dive in until I was like a teenager. So they went to church with me because I went to church-based schools. So they would just come with me because I was inquiring and stuff, but they didn't really dig their heels in until I was like entering high school. And they were like, okay, we like this church. We could really like get in here. But after a while, I had my prodigal son moment. I was just kind of like, I didn't leave God altogether, but I was just ripping and running the streets, doing what I want to do when I want to do it. I just didn't really I always was like, yeah, I believe in God, but I wasn't prioritizing him in my life. It was just like, well, he loves me, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and that was it. And so I really had a come to Jesus moment again and rededicated my life when I got pregnant with my son, because his father didn't want me to keep him. And we ended up breaking up because of that, because he wanted me to have an abortion. I said no. And so we broke up, and I have not talked to him since that moment. So he's not involved, absentee, all that. And in that moment, I just couldn't believe that I was a single mom. I felt like a statistic, because for the viewers listening and not watching, like, I am an African-American woman. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, now I'm on state assistance, now I'm a single mom. Like, I literally felt like a stereotype. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, I need to like get my mind back right. I need to rededicate my life, because sin and those things, it's like a slow fade. It's not an overnight thing. It's like little decision by little decision by little decision until you find yourself completely just like distant from God, And that was my wake up call. And then I joined a really great church when I was pregnant, and they really showed me what church family is supposed to look like. It wasn't about, you got to have this gift, or you got to be in this ministry, or you got to dress like this. It was very much just about living life together, being community. If I had a need, like literally my pregnancy was just action packed. I should have had a reality TV show when I was pregnant, because it was so much stuff going on. Like, I moved twice, I lost 2 cars, like it was just a lot happening. And they literally drove like an hour plus across town to come pick me up when my car broke down, and took me to my doctor's appointments, because I was high risk. I had like 4 doctors, and they were spread all throughout the DMV. They never complained, never asked for gas money, took us grocery shopping, did everything, threw me a baby shower, and never complained. Helped us move twice for free and bought us food. I mean, I still talk to some of them today. They still send gifts to my son, even though I'm all the way down here now in Atlanta. But it's just, I was like, this is what it should be. Like, this is what the body of Christ should be like.
That's what it is. That's what it's all about, actually showing the love of Christ, outside of the 4 walls of a building, but actually living it and just loving on our brothers and sisters. And so you did mention like you're down in Atlanta now. So you're originally from Virginia?
The DC area. Yeah. Well, we call it the DMV because it's like the tri-state area.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So you had your son, you had the wake up call. So now bring us to the point of what led you to move from the DMV, and now you're in Atlanta.
So at the end of 2018, my family moved from Alexandria, Virginia, which is really close to DC, to more like the Richmond area, a small town called Spotsylvania. And our goal was to buy a house. That ended up not really being the best move at the time. So we were like, let's just move and check out the area for a year. When we got there, I love the town. Don't get me wrong. Friendly people, like the friendliest small town I've ever seen in my entire life, but no opportunity. You know how small towns are. There's no opportunity. And so I was praying, I was fasting. I felt the nudge to move. Mind you, I've always been someone who's had itchy feet. I've never wanted to stay in one area my whole life. I want to live in multiple places. And so I was like, okay, God, like, I think now might be the time. So I went to prayer, fasting, and I felt the Holy Spirit tell me, move to Atlanta. It was very like vivid. Like, it was a repetitive, like Atlanta, because I was looking at Dallas, Houston, Birmingham, Charlotte, and then moving to the city of Richmond. And Atlanta was on the list, but I wasn't like, yeah, I'm gonna move there. And he was like, no, move to Atlanta. So I started talking to family members who are very successful down here, and the other ones we still talk to. These we don't anymore, unfortunately, but they were like really rallying. They were like, yeah, come down, you should do it. We could help you, this or the third. So we came down, scattered the area, stayed with them. Everything was great. But then when we started moving down here, I got the call from the house we were supposed to lease that we weren't gonna get it unless we paid them $7,000 more. And so we were like, no, can't do that, because they only wanted to do a 6-month lease, and $7,000 more on top of the thousands we already gave you. It's not going to work. So we ended up just living in and out of hotels for almost 2 months, being homeless.
Okay, so that didn't deter you from like, oh, maybe this is not what God said. Like, let's move back. So what made you keep going, despite the obstacles?
Honestly, knowing that God told me to go. Like, if I had made that move on my own and was like, oh, I'm gonna move to Atlanta, I would have been like, well, I'm going back to Richmond, because but this is why I stress so much about like really trying to hear from God when you're making such major moves like that. And it doesn't have to be this big miraculous, like the sky cracked and God said, move my child. Like it really could just be a huge nudging. It could be a dream. It could just be a feeling you can't shake. God speaks to us in so many ways. And that's it for me. He repeats himself with me. Like I said, go, I said, go, I said, go. So,
And he'll confirm it. And he'll keep
exactly.
confirming it until you make the move. God confirms his word. So if you ever feel like you are asking God for direction, he will ask him for a confirmation and he will confirm his word. There is sure about
exactly.
that. Jeremiah 33:3.
Yep, exactly. So you would definitely have that. You would definitely have that confirmation. So that's what kept me going.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so you get to Atlanta, you're having some difficulties, you're living out in motels at this point. Okay, so tell us what happened.
So when we realized we didn't have a place to stay, we started applying for different homes, started looking. The rental process down here is cutthroat because 20,000 people a month move to Atlanta. So
and I always see on my timeline, like people just like, oh, I moved to Atlanta. It's like, how many people moved?
Yeah, almost 1,000 people a day.
Yeah, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, PA, and we moved to California 3 years ago. So, but I'm always seeing people move to Atlanta.
Oh yeah, it's almost 1,000 people a day, and because of that, and because of all the development, it is hard. It's not hard to end up homeless in Atlanta. All it takes is one or two mishaps and no safety net, and this is why you see a lot of people. This is why you see a lot of people in those.
That's how it is out there too. With the homeless rate in California is just outrageous.
I heard
it's so easy to be homeless.
Yes,
the rent, it can be expensive.
Yes, and so we were applying. Kept getting instant nope, can't work with you. So we were just like, I was on rently.com one day and I was just like, oh, I've never seen this site. And I saw that you could self-tour. And so we came to this house that we're living in. And I was like, ooh, new construction for rent. Okay. Cause I just like a certain look. And and we applied and they gave it to us with like half of what everybody else wanted. And literally no income. Like none of us had a job at that point. I was just doing DoorDash and I was starting to monetize my Instagram at that point, but not enough to run a house. So they were like, yeah, here you go. And so it was nothing but a God story with that one. Nothing. And everything we pray for is this house.
Wow. But so look at that, look at what you had to overcome to get to the blessing, to get through the other side. And sometimes you just have to push through. And the thing is, like, when you're following God, it's not always going to be like roses and dandelions. Like you're going to get tested.
Yep.
You're going to get tested because it's like, how bad do you want it? Do you really trust me when you have nothing? So then when I bless you, are you still going to have the same trust?
Yes,
when you have nothing.
Yep. And that's why you got to share your testimony too.
That's right. That's right. You have to share it. God is so good. So now you're in Atlanta, you have your home. And so what are you doing now?
So now it's just hitting the ground running with business. I can't say, even though Atlanta's not like, oh my gosh, this is my dream come true to live here. There's certain things about the city I don't like, but
I mean, there's pros and cons to every city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I do like the opportunity, like for entrepreneurship and especially creative entrepreneurship. It is so much opportunity and people are willing to like work alongside you. And that's the energy that I just did not get back home in the DC area. Like it's more bureaucratic there, more political, a lot of entrepreneurs, but like brick and mortar traditional routes. So down here it's refreshing. It's like you just want to go and get after it because everybody's got something going on. And so if you're in the right environment, it's like iron sharpens iron. You're like, you know what? They're working on their brand. Let me crack open my laptop and do something with my stuff too. Right. And I love it. So that's really my focus now, is building my businesses and taking it from just a means to an end to actual like legacy, wealth building, that kind of thing.
Awesome. So you talked about, influencing, and now you are helping other women help them find their purpose and turning that into monetization. So tell us about how you transition, the influencing world and your coaching.
Yeah. So when I was homeless, before I ended up homeless, actually, before I moved down here, I had seen people working with brands and stuff, but I didn't really know how they were getting them. So while we were homeless, I looked up like influencer networks that you can pretty much get your foot in the door with easily. They don't pay a ton, but they pay something. You might get $50, $60, $30, but it's something. And so I joined those. I did, I applied and, got accepted. It's pretty much like a job board. You pick which one you want, they accept you, you do it. And so from there, I was like, okay, well, this is pretty easy, but I definitely need a little bit more to supplement the DoorDash I was doing. And so I started working on my media kit. I started pitching to brands. I started like taking my content more seriously as far as the pictures I put up, the captions, the calls to action. And then I started working with solopreneurs and small business owners, because big brands, they pay well, but it's a lot of hoops to jump through because so many people are influencing. But when you're working with like a solopreneur or someone who is a really small business, maybe got like 2 employees, 1 employee, they're going to be more willing to work with you when you're just starting out as an influencer and you don't have the 10, 20K yet. And so I just started like putting out my promo services. Like, if you need promo, I could promo for you. I could do this, I could do that. And slowly but surely, as my influence grew, then I raised the price, because now you're reaching more people through my platform. But that's how I got started. And then with the coaching, that was another God moment where I just, in my prayer and devotional, I felt the Holy Spirit like, okay, now it's time for you to coach other women how to do this, and at first I thought I was just going to be a life coach, but as I started getting my own coaching and mentoring, I was like, no, this is what God wants me to do, because everybody keeps asking me about it. And that repetition again, if everybody keeps asking you, if like you get that confirmation, that's where you're supposed to be. So I'm like, everyone's always asking me about how to make money on their Instagram. Let me go ahead and just make a program about this so I can reach the masses.
So now you have your program that teaches women how to monetize their online content. Is that correct? Okay, so I know you mentioned before, so you're doing pretty well with that. So how are you making like four figures now?
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So how did you help us out? Help us out. How did you get to the 4-figure mark with your online course?
So for me, I like to hit the 4-figure mark by having a more exclusive luxury premium program. So that means that I'm going to charge 4 figures, but even if I only get one person to sign up a month, I've hit my 4-figure mark, whether that's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Now, it's not for everybody. I teach people in my program, you got to know your market. You got to know what feels right to you. Because if you feel like, okay, my people are not going to purchase that, or it's not going to help them, because ultimately we really do want to help people, then you might want to price it lower, like maybe $597 or $497 or $697, but then you just try to get 2 or 3 people, so you still hit that 2-3K, kind of mark or whatever. But it's really just about what you're going to include. So the more you're going to charge, as a rule of thumb, I always say put more in the program, because if people are going to pay you 2,000-3,000, but they're literally getting like a ton, they don't mind it. But if they want something bite-sized, then charge less and try to get more people. And I do both. I have a mid-range program and a luxury program. The luxury is only one time a year because it's so intensive. It's like, it's 16 weeks. I really go in the weeds with you. I can't do that more than one time a year because it's so much. But I have a boot camp that's mid-range, that's $597 up front. And that's 4 weeks, and you get what you need to position yourself to make 4 figures. But I can't like hold your hand because it's only 4 weeks, but I give you everything you need to know: templates, workbooks, knowledge, all that. So that's what I would say. If you're going to monetize your gifts or your influence, especially if you're going to go the traditional route of being an influencer, then you want to charge enough that it's going to help you reach that goal a little faster, especially if you don't have a lot of people on your platform. I don't teach people how to influence directly anymore, like just being an influencer, but going through my programs will basically give you the tools you need to do that anyway. But I just don't have that program just for that anymore, because I'm kind of like out of that space and I'm really diving into coaching. So I just focus on that.
Yeah, it seems like you kind of elevated. You started off there, but now you're kind of, there's more a deeper meaning and purpose behind it.
Exactly.
God is calling you to other things.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said you had a high end and then you had like a mid end. So tell us about your high, like how much are you charging for your high end and what is all included in that price point?
So the high end is my signature program that I launched with last year, and that's called Her Profit on Purpose. and I'm in the second round now. So that is $3,000 upfront, if you just pay it upfront. But I do have payment plans because I understand people need, they need time. And
Yeah.
so that program is a 16-week program, very intense in the sense that you're going to walk out of that program with your own program. Like, I'm literally teaching you how to pinpoint what your program should be about based on your brand, your gifts, your purpose, your skills. I'm teaching you how to set up your program. So whether you want to do it as a hybrid, like part online, part in person, whether you want to do it fully online, group, one-on-one membership program, whatever, I'm giving you the systems that you need. I'm breaking down how to set yourself up in the systems. I'm giving you like contract templates that I use. I'm literally giving you everything you need to know, how to show up online to start, positioning yourself as the expert, all of that. And I give like little tasks and prompts. So during the 16 weeks, I've had clients make back their investment because with the prompts, if you're following it, you're going to get those clients. I've had people not even really promote, but just because they showed up differently using my tips, they had people coming to them. Like, they weren't even on top of their game like that, but they're like, oh my gosh, people are DMing me that. So, I've had a lot of people like able to either have that wait list forming before they launch, or able to make back that investment. And it literally is just, I'm holding your hand. We're getting to work in that 16 weeks. So if you show up, you do the work, you'll have your program. And that's why it's $3,000, because 16 weeks, it's about 4 months. So yeah. And that's only once a year because of that, because it's so intense.
And how many people can join the course? Is it like one-on-one, or how many people a year can join if they are interested?
So it's a group program. I started out as a one-on-one, but it was getting to be too much because I have to keep track of where everyone is at individually. So This time is going to be a group program. And I don't really have caps per se, but I would say I wouldn't have more than 10 people in the program, just because I really want to have time to hone in and make sure everyone gets attention.
Awesome.
Yep. So that's that one.
Yeah. So what would be like some marketing tips, like for people who are out there who have like an online business, or who are struggling to get leads or something? What would you suggest, like some online marketing tips that they can do to help grow their business?
So I would say definitely have more than one platform. So have a platform where it's more like community building, personal brand building, shorter form content. So like an Instagram, because the posts don't last as long, but it's great for people to get that behind the scenes look at you, because people buy from people. As long as people know you, like you, and trust you, they'll buy from you. Honestly, your product doesn't even have to be revolutionary. They just have to like you.
Right. You don't have to
buy
reinvent the wheel. Like, how many paper brands are there?
Right. And we still buying them.
Exactly.
So definitely build your personal brand by letting people know you, showing up authentically as yourself. Like, that's really something I hone in on and teach people, because it's easy to say, but a lot of people don't know how to translate that. And I can say, because I didn't just say this myself, some of my clients and some of my followers have said this, I've mastered the art of being transparent, being authentic, and still being private. So people online feel like they know me, like I'm their best friend. But when they sit and think about it, they're like, I really don't know you. Like I feel like you're my best friend, but I really don't know you. So
I know nothing about you, but know so much at the same time.
So I really teach my clients how to do that. And
how do you do that? I honestly struggle with that, because it's like, you want to share things, but it's sometimes I feel like some things I need to keep to myself, and then it's like I don't want to, and then I can be private as well. But how do you find that balance of like being transparent, and sharing your story, because it helps people when you share. And that's what I want to do. Like, I want to share my story, share my testimony, because I want someone who may be facing this to hear this. But like, I don't need y'all in my business stuff. Like, how do we find that balance?
So I think a quick rule of thumb for me is to share those little quirky things without sharing the meat and potatoes, if that makes sense. So like, for instance, a couple months ago, I was having a terrible day. Like, I was ready to just throw hands to anybody that approached me because I was so stressed. And I just put that online. I had another post scheduled, and I was like, I'm gonna change the caption. So the caption says something to the effect of like, when you have one of those days where you're over it and anybody could get it if they try. It was something like that. And the amount of people that like resonated with that were like, oh my gosh, I'm having that day too. This is so refreshing. So they don't know who I wanted to throw hands with. They don't know if I actually did or not, which I didn't, you know, to clear. They don't know if I actually did. They don't know what exactly is going on, but it's just that opening, like that crack in the door, like, see, I am human. I don't have it all together. God's still working on me. Like, you know, I'm not perfect yet. So I always say capture those little moments because content is all around us. And I feel like as entrepreneurs and influencers, we have to like remember that we got to capture it. So even if it's on your phone real quick, capture a picture if you're out somewhere and you can, you know, jot down an idea. Because sometimes the best thoughts hit me when I'm out at the grocery store and I'm like, oh my gosh, that'll be a dope post. I need to jot this down.
Right.
Really capturing that to evoke the emotion, because people can feel that emotion on the post. They can feel when it's like cookie cutter, when you just did it just to make your quota or whatever. And they can feel when you're actually speaking from the heart and you're like, I'm putting it all out there. So yeah, it's that's a little rule of thumb, because I share that I'm dating. People don't know who I'm dating. They don't know, you know, they know all this type of stuff. But I share those little things so people can be like, oh wow, yeah, this is her life and I can resonate and this and that, the third.
That's so good. So just, you know, you pick certain areas of your life that you want to share and share that.
Yep.
Okay, so we talked about your Christianity business influencing. So we really haven't touched your motherhood side, you know.
Yeah.
So how are you balancing all of this, being a single mom, having a son? I was a single mom for many, and a teen mom. I had my son at 17, so I'm very familiar. So can you tell us how you're balancing, you know, the work and mom life, if there is even a balance? Because sometimes I'm like, there's no balance. Something is just getting left out today.
I agree. I feel like balance is kind of like a facade. It's like, are we ever really going to be balanced? Like, you just gotta, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, whatever is pressing gets my attention. And I can say community. So the fact that I do live with my mom and sister helps a ton. It is getting to the point where obviously he has to start school. And so I'm gonna look into that. And, you know, I want him to go through like a homeschool co-op, so it's intimate for him just because of the way he learns and stuff. But it's hard. Like, I'm honestly, he was trying me like 2 hours ago. So just like, I'm just trying to hang on. And he's 4, you know, those toddler stages. Those toddler stages. I'm like,
your son is 4, right?
Yeah. He's gonna be 5 in November. And I'm just like, I don't know how people do this with multiples. Like, it's
girl, then when they get teenage, it's a whole different beast. Then they have opinions, and then they're like not an adult, but they still have opinions about things that you have to take into consideration.
I can't.
Yeah, so you're saying that
I feel like the balance is just not, it's not there. Like, I pay attention to whatever is pressing. So there's, I mean, honestly, as much as people might look at my business or my influencing or just life in general and be like, wow, she's living her best life. She's so organized. Like, she just got it all together. I am dropping the ball constantly. Like, there's things like I've had to do for weeks I haven't gotten to yet. You know, I was shocked when someone told me that they admire my organization. I was like, I'm organized. Like, what? I am? Because I'm like, if you could pan out and see my room right now, it is just, it's a mess.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how Instagram is. Like, you only see like a little corner of the room. So when you zoom out and see the whole picture, the whole room, you'll be surprised, right?
Okay. So I would say for all the single moms, definitely lean into Village. If you got a family member, friends, you only need like a solid 1 or 2, maybe 3 people. And the more you have, the better. But yeah, even if you can only get 1 to 3 people to really help, that can make a huge difference. Because my sister watches my son a lot. So I can work on business, and I help my mom with her business. So she's Mama Martin's Kitchen. I'm the creative director for that. So, you know, I just tell her when to show up, what to cook, when to post, like, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So my sister watches my son primarily. If I was still in the DMV, I would have even more hams because that's where I'm from. But I just got to make do with what I have and who I have down here until my network continues to grow.
Awesome. That's so good. Yeah. So really it's just like there is no balance, pray and ask God in the morning what your priorities are and just do that for the
And let
day.
the rest go.
That's all you can do. So if
Mhm.
anyone is interested in your services or finding you or connecting with you, where can we find you?
So you can find me for business purposes at Rondell Martin. That's Rondelle, and then regular Martin. On Instagram, if you click the link in my bio, you'll find all of my services, and I'm always updating it. So whatever is being offered at that time, you'll find it there. And feel free to slide in my DMs, chit chat with me if I'm online, and let's get to know each other.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story. I'm sure it's going to be inspiring and help someone. So, we always leave our listeners with a journey takeaway, and that's just one thing you would want our listeners to take away from your journey, from your story.
So I would say trust God and his timing and really hone in onto your relationship with God. So how we said earlier, how it doesn't need to be cookie cutter, it's really relationship, not religion. Because I always tell
Right.
people, for me, I feel like I'm too street for the church and too church for the street. I'm like right,
Oh,
right in
that's
between.
me.
Oh,
I
you are?
love
See, I
that.
knew we bonded. I knew we bonded. And so I'm like, I struggle with that. Even in the Christian content creator space, it's like, it's easy for me to compare and be like, I'm not good enough. I'm not there yet. But I'm like, you know what? This is my relationship. Like, hone into your relationship and learn how God speaks to you, how he's leading you. You don't have to fit a box. Like God knows your heart and you don't have to validate that to anybody to get their applause.
Mm.
Just really hone in on God because he made you. He knows you a little street.
He
Okay.
made you that way.
Exactly. So hone into that. And then when you hone into him more and you build that relationship with him, you'll be able to trust his timing better because like he's your father. You'll be like, okay, I know he got me. Your trust will build, your faith will build. But it takes it's like a marriage, if you don't spend time with your spouse, like there's no intimacy. So
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
gotta prioritize it. Even if it's 10 minutes a day where you read some scripture and pray, like work your way up. You don't have to start out in 2 hours in your prayer closet or nothing like that if you're not there yet. Just really hone in step by step. And you'll find that over time you want to spend 2 hours in your prayer closet. You want to do this or that. So
Right,
that's
because
what I
you
would say.
realize your life depends on this. Like
Exactly.
my life progression depends on this relationship and this intimacy, for me to become
Exactly.
the best version of myself.
Exactly.
So,
It's
yeah,
everything.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, and thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I am Jordan Thorpe. God loves you so much, and so do I. And also, don't forget to follow our new Instagram page at Jordan's Journey Podcast _ for all of the podcast updates. Okay, until next time.
All right.